Okay, students. So now let us continue with the revision. After this, we discussed about minor of a matrix. Okay. Now, what is the minor of a matrix? For example, a matrix is there. Okay, and I told you that in books it is written that you can calculate the minor of a matrix just for a square matrix. But I also told you that sometimes for rectangular matrix also we can calculate the minor of a matrix, right? But in books it is written square of a matrix. 5, 2, 1, 6, 2, 2, 6, 1, 3. Let us say it is a 3 cross 3 matrix. 3 cross 3 matrix. How do you calculate the minor? So, this is the minor, okay? This is the minor, this is the minor, this is the minor, this is the minor. So, how many 2 cross 2 square matrix you can form with the help of this matrix? That is actually called as a minor of this matrix. Then we have cofactors. What is this cofactor? That is a determinant of the minor of a matrix. For example, you take the determinant of 2, 1, 2, 3 with respective sign. How to calculate the sign? If this will be positive. If this, then 6, 6 and 6, 6 and 2, 3 will be negative. Negative of 6, 6, 2, 3. Clear? So these are called as the cofactors. Then we have the transpose. Sorry, we have the adjoint. Sorry. We have the adjoint. That is the transpose of the cofactors. So a matrix will be formed, right? Let us say this is your 1, 1. This is your C1, 1. This will be your 1 and 2. This will be your C1, 2. This will be your C1, 2. So there will be a lot of cofactors. 9 cofactors will be there. And if you form a matrix with the help of these cofactors, right? If you form a matrix that will be equal to C1, 1, C1, 2, C1, 3, C2, 1, C2, 2, C2, 3, C3, 1, C3, 2, C3, 3, like this, okay? This is matrix, cofactor matrix. And if you take the transpose of this cofactor matrix, that will be the adjoint of this matrix. That will be equal to what? It will be equal to C11, C12, C21, C31, C13, C22, C, it will be 23, it will be C32, C33. This matrix is actually called as the adjoint of A. Adjoint of A means the transpose of the cofactor matrix is actually called as the adjoint matrix. Similarly, we can calculate the inverse also. A inverse matrix will be equal to adjoint of A divided by the determinant of A. That will be equal to the A inverse. After this, we calculated the rank of a matrix. After this, we move to the topic of rank of a matrix. Rank of a matrix. That is given by rho. Rho is the rank. Now, what is the physical meaning of, or what is the practical use of rank of a matrix? Rank of a matrix basically tells you, you do whatever you want to do. That is, you do whatever the row or column transformations you want to make in a particular matrix. After making n number of particular column and row transformations, the number of non-zero rows or non-zero columns is actually called as the rank of the matrix. For example, a matrix A is given to you as 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1. Now in this matrix you do anything you want. R2 is equal to R2 this, C2 is equal to C2 minus and plus, whatever you want to do. You will not be further reduce it. You will not be able to reduce it. You will not be able to reduce it in this form. 0, 0, 0. You will not be able to reduce it in this form. So in this matrix, this is the simplest form of this matrix. How many number of non-zero rows are there? 1, 2, 3. Or how many number of non-zero columns are there? 1, 2 and 3. So it means that the rank of this matrix A will be equal to 3. So from this I can conclude that the rank of an identity matrix is the order of that matrix. The rank of the identity matrix is the order of that matrix. After this, I told you how to calculate the rank of a matrix. So we have a lot of methods to calculate the rank. And what is the practical use of rank of the matrix? It will be used basically in calculation of the differential equations, not differential, sorry, in calculation of the linear equations, so simultaneous linear equations, the rank will be used. The first method, methods to calculate rank. Calculate rank of a matrix. First method is called as the minor method. Let us say a matrix is given to you. A matrix is given to you. It can be a 3 cross 3 matrix. It can be a 2 cross 2 matrix. First of all, you calculate the determinant of the matrix. If the determinant of the matrix becomes equal to 0, for example, it is a 3 cross 3 matrix. Let us say it is A1, A2, A3, B1, B2, B3, C1, C2, C3. This type of matrix is there. First of all, you calculate the determinant of this matrix. If it is become equal to 0, it means that from the basics of matrix and determinants, we know that if the determinant of a matrix is 0, either one row or one column is 0. So the rank of this matrix will not be equal to 3. It can be 2, it can be 1. Then we find at least one minor whose determinant is not equal to 0. Let us say that this is a minor B2, B3, C2, C3. If it becomes not equal to 0, we will say that the rank of this matrix A will be equal to 2. But if all the minors are also coming out to be 0, what will we say? We will say that, okay, we will try to find out at least one element which is not equal to 0. Here will be 1, A, B, 1, 2, 3. Some element will be there which is not equal to 0. Then I will say that the rank of this matrix A is equal to 1. So rank of the matrix cannot be less than 1 until or unless it is a null matrix. If it is a null matrix, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Matrix A is like this. Now, determinant of this matrix, 0. Take one minor. So all the minors will give me 0 value. Is there any element which is non-zero? No. Every element is 0. So I will say that the rank of this matrix A will be equal to 0. So this is an exception case. Otherwise, rank of the matrix cannot be equal to 0. Rank of the matrix cannot be equal to 0. Only this is the exception, which is null matrix. So the first method is called as the minor method. This method is good if the order of matrix is less than or equal to 3. If order becomes 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, it will be very difficult, because in case of 4 order matrix, you will have to find the determinant of that 4 cross 4 matrix. It will be very difficult, because a lot of 3 cross 3 matrices will also be there. So for that case, what do we do is that we have different type of other methods also. The next method is by using Echelian form, and that is the one of the simplest methods. That is the by Echelian form, method B is by ECHELON, Echelian form. While calculating the rank of the matrix in the form of the Echelian form, always remember that you just apply the row transformation. Do not go for column transformation, just go for row transformation. In books you will find that column transformation has already also been performed, but then you will become confused, because when I will be solving the Gauss-Jacobian method, the Gauss-Seidel method, there also we have the Echelian form, and there if you apply the column transformation you will not be getting the results. So that is why, to get rid of the confusion, I am here itself telling you that do not apply the column transformations. Always apply the row transformation and try to make this matrix in this form: A, B, C, or not A, let us say it is 1, B, C, D, E, let's say 4 cross 4 matrix, 0, 1, A, 1, A2, 0, 0, 1, something, something, 0, 0, 0, 1, something, something. You try to make this matrix into this form. If you are successfully can make this matrix into this form, then calculate the number of non-zero rows. The number of non-zero rows, number of non-zero rows will give you the rank of the matrix A. Rank of the matrix A. This is the Echelian form method. This is a very good method, very easy method also. You can hardly calculate the rank of any matrix with the help of this method, hardly in 1 minute to 2 minutes maximum. Then I told you that by putting a note, there is a term which is called as the nullity. What is the meaning of nullity? The number of zero rows. The number of zero rows is actually called as the nullity of a matrix. For example, a particular matrix had 2 zero rows. After reducing with the help of the row and column transformation, you have found that there are 2 rows which are completely zero, then the nullity of the matrix will be equal to 2. Then apart from it, we also have one more form. C method is the normal form. But I told you to do not consider the normal form, because normal form is a little bit of typical forms. The third one is the normal form. In normal form, we try to make an identity matrix. You can use row and column, whatever you want to use. We try to make an identity matrix. It can be like this. It can be like this. It can be like this. This type of form is called as the normal form. And the order of this identity matrix will be the rank of the particular matrix. For example, you have a matrix like this: 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. By reducing, by applying various rows and column transformations, so this is the form of I 0, 0, 0. This is this form. So I will say that the rank of this matrix will be, now order of this identity matrix is what? 3. The rank of this matrix A is actually equal to 3. This is called as the normal form, but I told you that the normal form is a little bit of lengthy method, so do not go for the normal method, you go for the Echelian form method. That is a much easier method to calculate the rank of a matrix. After this, we discussed about the consistency and non-consistency of non-homogeneous system of linear equations. Consistency and inconsistency, right? So for example, some equation is given to you, a1x plus b1y plus c1z equal to 0, a2x, or so let us say it is d1 plus b2y plus c2z equal to d2, a3x, b3y, c3z equal to d3. Some equation is given to you like this, right? So first of all, what do we do is that we make an augmented matrix, which is also called as the AUG, right? Augmented matrix. It will be equal to what? This matrix A will be equal to A1, B1, C1, A2, B2, C2, A3, B3, C3. X will be equal to what? Or you can say like this. Yeah. X will be equal to X, Y, Z. And B is equal to column matrix D1, D2, D3. So this whole thing can also be represented as AX is equals to B. Let me change the marker. This whole thing can also be represented as AX is equals to B. So first of all, what do we do is that we form the augmented matrix. So augmented matrix C is written as A dot dot B. A dot dot B means that first of all write this matrix A1, B1, C1 dot dot, A2, B2, C2 dot dot, A3, B3, C3 dot dot, D1, D2 and D3. This is the augmented matrix. Now the step number 2. Now what is the meaning of consistency and inconsistency? Whether it will have any solution or not. Simple, right? Now the next step, or trivial and non-trivial solutions, right? For example, 0, 0, 0 is a trivial solution. Non-trivial means apart from 0, whether it has any solution or not. So reduce it into echelon form. This is step number 2. Step number 2 is reduce it into ECHELON, echelon form. Either with the help of, and here do not apply the column transformation. Note, do not apply column transformation. Do not apply column transformation. Otherwise it will be wrong. Do not apply it, the column transformation. Reduce into echelon form. And then you will be having this matrix. This is my matrix A. This is my matrix B. And this whole is my matrix C. Now then check. If rank of the matrix is equal to rank of the matrix A, it is consistent. If rank of the matrix A is equal to rank of the matrix C, it is consistent. It means that it has some solution. Whether it will have a unique solution or whether it will have infinite number of solution, that we have to check. Okay. So if rank of A becomes, this is case number A here, rank of C is equal to n. N is the number of unknowns, that is x, y, z. It can be A, B, C, D, E, F, whatever it is, number of unknowns, we say it has a unique solution. We say it is a unique solution. Number 2, if rank of A is equal to rank of C is less than n, we say it has infinite number of solutions. And if, this is my case number 1, this is my case number 2, if rank of A is not equal to rank of C, we say it is inconsistent or no solution. Inconsistent or no solution. This is what I told you. After on this, we also solved out some questions also. Okay. Then we also solved the Cayley-Hamilton theorem also. Okay. That every square matrix satisfies its characteristic equation. Now what is the characteristic equation? I already told you. After this, we discussed about the eigenvalues and eigenvectors. Okay, so how to calculate the eigenvalues and eigenvector? Let us say that A is some matrix, AX is equal to lambda into X. Okay, you multiply A with some value, you can see you can apply, just multiply this X with some value lambda, where lambda is called as the characteristic value. You take it here, it will be, you take A, you take X common, it will be A into lambda. In the form of matrix, I can write lambda into I into X is equals to 0, where this X is called as the eigenvector, and lambda is called as the characteristic value or the eigenvalue, and this whole equation is called as the characteristic equation of this particular matrix. With the help of this, we can calculate the values of this thing, right? One more thing, in eigenvector, when we are calculating eigenvector, 0, 0, 0, right? A null vector cannot be an eigenvector. Remember this, a null vector cannot be an eigenvector. Remember this thing value, right? Eigenvector. A null vector cannot be an eigenvector. So with the help of the characteristic equation, we also solved some questions also. Let me solve one question. Calculate the eigenvalue and eigenvector of this matrix. So let us say that a matrix is given to you like this. Let me randomly take one matrix, 1, 5, 2, 1. Some matrices like this. How to find it? A minus lambda I is equal to 0. 1 minus lambda 5 to 1 minus lambda is equal to 0. See, it is a random equation, so the eigenvalues can be also imaginary also, because it's a random equation, but still I am trying it. 1 minus lambda square minus 10 is equal to 0. Lambda square minus 2 lambda plus 1, it will be minus 9 is equal to 0. See, it will be a random thing, right? Let me do it like this. It will be a random thing. So 3 into 3 is 9, not going to make any factor. Then we have to go with b square minus 4ac. So b square is 4. So under root of 32, obviously it will be some irrational vector will be this, right? So let me take one known question, because it will be some irrational value. I don't want to make any rational thing here, because I want to just make a quick revision of it. So let me not make a irrational value here. Let me take some other matrix. Because this is a random matrix which I had taken, so that is why I am getting an imaginary value here. It will be minus lambda square, sorry, minus lambda square and plus 1 minus 9, so minus, yeah, it's like this. Let me take some other, so some matrix is given, matrix A is given to you like this, 1 minus 2 minus 5 minus 4. Let us calculate the A minus lambda. It will be 1 minus lambda minus 2 minus 5 minus 4 minus lambda, determinant is equal to 0. If you solve it, you will be getting lambda square minus 5 lambda minus 6 is equal to 0. You will be getting lambda is equal to 6 and lambda is equal to minus 1. So these are the two eigenvalues which you will be getting, characteristic values. From here I also told you that we have got two characteristic value, and the number of characteristic value or the eigenvalues will be equal to the order of this matrix. What was the order of this matrix? 2 cross 2, so 2 eigenvalues. 3 cross 3 matrix, 3 eigenvalues. So remember, depending upon the order of the matrix. Now how to calculate the eigenvectors? So I told you that this is the equation, that is A minus lambda I into x is equal to 0. This is the equation which I told you. Clear? So one by one just put the eigenvalues here. So what is this? 1 minus 5 minus 2 minus 4 A minus lambda. Let me take lambda as 6 first of all. So 6 0 0 6 into x. Into x is, let us say it is x1 y1. So first eigenvector. For corresponding to every eigenvalue, there will be one eigenvector corresponding to every eigenvalue except 0 0. It will be what? It will be minus 5 minus 2 minus 5 and minus 10. Is it minus 4? Is it minus 4? Let me check it. Sorry, it is 4. Sorry, it is 4, not minus 4. It is 4. It is 4, sorry. It is 4, 4, 4. It is 4, sorry. It is 4. So 4, it will be minus 2. X, y. Or you can say x1, y1. Let me solve it. Is equal to 0. Minus 5 times of x1, okay, minus 2 times of y1 is equal to 0. Or I can say is equal to some constant k, is equal to some constant k. Or I can say that minus 5 times of x1 divided by 2 is equal to y1 is equal to some constant k. So I will say that y1 is equal to k and x1 is equal to minus 2 by 5 and y1 is equal to k minus 2 by 5k. So the first eigenvector x1 y1 will be equal to, x1 is minus 2 by 5 into k and y is k. So this is the first eigenvector. K can have any value, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. K can have any number of values. Similarly, corresponding to lambda is equal to minus 1, you put lambda is equal to minus 1 here. If it minus 1, it will be 0. Minus 1, it will be equal to this 4. Minus 1, it will be equal to 5. Corresponding to that also, you will get an eigenvector. So depending upon the value of this k, you can have a number of eigenvector. Clear? So that is how we calculate the eigenvalues and the eigenvectors. In some books you will find that this thing has been further solved by applying some elementary row and column transformation. That is also perfectly fine. You can do it like this, that R2 changes to R2 minus R1, so this will be completely 0 and you will be getting 5 times of x1 minus 2 times of y1 equal to 0. That is also completely fine. There is no issue in that. Okay. After this, students, in the matrix and determinants chapter itself, we had started with the various methods to solve system of simultaneous linear equations. So we have 5 methods in total. The first method is called as the Gauss elimination method. Gauss elimination method. Then we have the Gauss-Jordan method. Then we have Kraut's method, which is also called as the LU decomposition method. After this, we have the Jacobian method. Which is also called as Gauss-Jacobian method. Gauss-Jacobi method. After this, the last method is called as the Gauss-Seidel method. Gauss-Seidel method. These first 3 methods are also called as the direct methods, and these are called as the indirect methods or approximate methods. These are called direct methods. Why the first 3 are called as the direct methods? Because we are getting an exact value or exact methods. Because you are getting some exact value, x equal to 2, y equal to something. But here, with the help of these two methods, you are getting the value of some approximate value of x, y and z. X equal to 2.785123 something, right? So you are not getting an exact value, exact root. You are getting some approximate root. That is why these are called as the indirect methods or the approximate methods. Now, first, Gauss elimination method. What do we do in the Gauss elimination method? First of all, we convert a particular matrix into the augmented matrix. Then after applying the row transformations only row transformations, what do? We try to convert into echelon form. So you will be getting some matrix like this. In the Gauss elimination, you will be getting some matrix. A1, B1, C1, D1, then 0, 1, let us say it is C2, D2, 0, 0, let us say we have 1 here, D5, D1, D2, D5 is equal to X, Y, Z. Directly by comparing, I will say that D3 is equal to Z. Clear? Because ultimately this is my A, this is my X, and this is my B. AX is equal to B. Directly by comparing these, I will say that, okay, D3 is equal to 1. Once you have got the value of D3, you will be getting some equation. You put it here, you will be getting the value of, sorry, not D3, Z. You will get the value of Z. I will say that directly that Z is equals to D3. Once you have got the value of Z, you make some equation in the form of X, Y and Z. X will not be there, put the value of Z here, put the value of Z here, you will be getting the value of Y. Put the value of Y here, you will be getting the value of X also. So all the values of X, Y and Z will be clearly known. So this is what the Gauss elimination method is, right? In this method we do the back substitution, remember it? In this method we do the back substitution, remember it, right? Because it is important, this word, the back substitution. Then we have the Gauss-Jordan method. This is an advanced form of the Gauss elimination method. In this method, we do not convert it into echelon form. We convert it into the normal form. And dear students, you know that to convert a matrix into normal form, you can apply the row as well as column transformation. So here you can apply the row as well as the column transformation and you convert it into the normal form. Some identity matrix will be there and some. And by comparing the values, we will be getting the values of X, Y and Z. This is what we have discussed in the class also, and we have solved some numericals in the class also on this topic. After the Gauss elimination method, we have the Krauts method. This is also called as the LU decomposition method, lower triangle, upper triangular matrix decomposition method. So we decompose this matrix, whatever this matrix A, into one L matrix and one U matrix. L means the lower triangular matrix and U means the upper triangular matrix. We break it into two matrices. Then we find the values of L11, L12, U11, U12 and so on. We find these values, we put it in the matrix and you are getting the upper triangular matrix as well as the lower triangular matrix. Then I told you that there is a formula which is called as Lux. Lux is equals to B. So this matrix A has been broken into an lower triangular, upper triangular. Then we have this X and we have this B. Then we have this U and X. We say that is Ly. Ly is equal to B. Right? And then we know that the value of this L, we know the value of this U. Then we calculate the values of X, Y and Z. Then we have the Gauss method, which is also called as the Gauss-Jacobian method. For this method, I told you that we have three conditions to make. The first condition is for the Gauss-Jacobian method, and this condition is also applicable for the Gauss-Seidel method also, that mod of A should be greater than mod of B2 plus mod of C2. mod of b1 should be greater than mod of a1 plus mod of a2 plus mod of c2. Mod of c1 should be greater than mod of a3 plus mod of b3. This is the condition which should be satisfied. Now the question is, sir, which one is a1, which one is b1, which one is c1? It can be anything. It can be either, for example, these are the equations given to you. That is a1 x plus b1 y plus c1 z equal to d1 plus c2 z equal to d2, a3x plus b3y plus c3z is equal to d3. A1, A2, A3 can be anything, right? Just see a matrix, see an equation in which mod of A1 becomes greater than mod of the other equation. Clear? Mod of B1 becomes equal to the mod of other equations, and mod of C1 becomes equal to greater than the mod of the other equations. So this is B2. B2. This is C3. This is C3. Mod of a1 plus mod of, ठीक है, mod of a1 mod of b1 b2, ठीक है, yeah, correct, yeah, this is the correct sequence. So if this thing is valid, then only the formula of the Jacobian method or the Gauss Jacobian method will be valid. So what do we do is that we calculate the value of x from here. So x will be equal to what? You will say that, so from here x will be equal to d1 minus c1z plus b1y, if you take the bracket common, divided by a1. This will be the value of x from this equation where you are getting a1 is greater than b1 plus c1. From this equation, you get the value of this x here. Clear? Once you get the value of x, you can also get the value of y from here. You can get the value of y from here, you can get the value of z from here. Z should be taken in that equation in which this is valid. Y should be taken from that equation in which this is valid, and x should be taken from that equation in which this is valid. So you have got the value of x, y and z. Now we start the iteration. Now in the iteration, first of all, what do we do is that in the first equation, in this equation, we put z equal to y equal to 0. Once you put these two values 0, x will be equal to d1 upon a1. Clear? d1 upon a1. Then we put x equal to y equal to z in the second equation. Once you put the value of x equal to y equal to z equal to 0 in the second equation, y will become equal to d2 divided by b2. Clear? Similarly, in the third equation, once we have got the values of x1, y1 and z1, then again repeat it. Then you put the values of y1, z1, you get the value of x2. Put the value of x1, put the value of x1, z1, get the value of y2. Put the value of x1, put the value of y1, get the value of z2. Once you have got the value of x2, y2, z2, then again put the value. So this is what the iteration method is all about. The next method, and you just keep on repeating it. After some time, what you will be seeing is that you are getting the repetitive roots. Repetitive means that x5 is coming out to be 0.34376. x6 is coming out to be 0.34377. So a very small gap is there, 0.00001 gap. It means that the approximate root of this equation will be 0.000 something. Sorry, 0.34, whatever it is. So this is what the Jacobian method or the Gauss Jacobian method is. After this we have the Gauss-Seidel method. This is an advanced form of the Gauss Jacobian method. It is also an iterative method. Okay. In this, what do we do? Put the value of y equal to z equal to 0. In this equation, we get the value of x1. Now put the value of x1 in this equation, because from here you will be getting y. Y will be equal to d2 minus c2z plus a2x divided by b2. So you will be getting the value of y. This you put the value of x1 obtained in from the first equation in the second equation. You will be getting the value of y2. You put the value of y1 x1 in the third equation, get the value of z1. You have got x1 y1 z1. Now again repeat it. You put the value of x1, you put the value of y1 z1 to get the value of x2. Put the value of x2 here, x2 y1. x2 z1 y2, x2 y2 z2. That is how we proceed in the Gauss-Seidel method. It is also an indirect method. It is also an approximate method. So this was all about the matrices part. After that, we started with the numerical method. No, not numerical. We started with the differential equations. Now let us start with the differential equations straight away. Okay. Now then we started with the differential equations. In the differential equations, the first type of equation that we discussed was the variable separable form. Variable separable form. So this all these things which I am telling you right now, it comes under the category of the first order differential equation. First order differential equations. Okay, and I also told you what is the meaning of linear differential equation, right? What is the meaning of linear differential equation? Linear means the power of y is 1. Remember it. Don't make this confusion, right? Linear means the power of y is 1. Homogeneous. The addition of powers of both x and y is same. X square y square, or x cube y, or xy cube. So that is homogeneous. That is, it has both the terms x and y, and the powers of both x and y is equal. Homogeneous. Variable separable form. In variable separable form, what do we do is that, for example, you have this equation that is dy into 5 plus x square is equal to 5 minus y square dx. So what do we do is that you take this x here, you take this x here. You will be getting dy upon 5 minus y square is equal to dx upon 5 plus x square. You do the integration, because now the y term is with this, x term is with this. This type of form is called as the variable separable form. Very simple. After this variable separable form, then we have the exact differential equation. Exact differential equation. An equation m dx plus n dy is equal to 0. It is said to be as an exact differential equation, right? It is called as an exact differential equation if dou m by dou y minus dou n by dou x, right? If dou m by dou y minus dou n by dou x equal to 0, or dou m by dou y is equal to dou n by dou x. This type of form is called as an exact differential equation, and the solution of this differential equation is integration of m dx. Clear? Considering considering to y to be as constant, y is equals to constant, plus integration of n dy, eliminating or rejecting the x terms, free from x terms, is equal to some constant c. So this was the formula for the exact differential equation. Sometimes the equation is not exact. What do? We multiply it with the factor which is called as the integrating factor. So we have various integrating factors for the exact differential equations. What is the first integrating factor? And that type of equations are called as the reducible to exact. So if one equation is not an exact differential equation, it can be reduced to an exact differential equation. The first method is called as an inspection method. So in this inspection method, if x dy minus y dx is equals to 0, the integrating factor is 1 upon x square. One upon x square is the integrating factor. Similarly, if we have y dx minus x dy equal to 0, the integrating factor is 1 upon y square. So this method is called as the inspection method. Okay, and if m and y are homogeneous, then the integrating factor is 1 upon mx plus ny. Basharte mx plus ny should not be equal to 0. If it is equal to 0, then how do we have to proceed? I have already told you. If mx plus ny equal to 0, you can easily solve it, right? How you can solve it? You will say that, sir, from here this x will be equal to minus ny upon x. You put it in this equation, you solve it. You will be getting 10 inverse something, right? You will be getting 10 inverse something from this. sorry, m is equal to, sorry, m is equal to. Then we have, apart from this inspection method, which is the rule number 1, then we have the rule number 2. Now, what is the rule number 2? In rule number 2, I told you that if 1 by n dou m by dou y minus dou n by dou x is a function of x, then the integrating factor is e raised to the power integration of f dx. Now, if 1 upon m n dou m by dou y minus dou n by dou x, it is a function of x only, then integrating factor is e raised to the power integration of fx dx. This was the thing. Whatever the function will be getting here in the right hand side, fx dx integrating factor, this will be the integrating factor. Similarly, if it is a function of y, similarly, if 1 upon m dou m by dou y minus dou n by dou x is a function of y, integrating factor is e raised to power integration of fy dy. Okay. After this, we solved many questions from this topic. Then how to solve the differential equation of first order dy by dx plus py is equal to qx? That is very simple. We just have to find the integrating factor e raised to power integration of p dx. The complete solution becomes integration factor into y is equal to integration of q into integration factor dx plus c. That I have told you, that is a very simple thing, okay? That I am not going to repeat it. This type of equation, if you remember, that is dy by dx plus px is equal to q, okay? Now, for this, the integrating factor is e raised to power integration of p dx. This is the equation, and the ultimate solution becomes y into integrating factor is equal to integration of q into integration factor plus c. Okay, and that I am not going to repeat it. Then how to solve the homogeneous also I told you, right? What is the meaning of homogeneous? That is dy by dx. It is equal to, let us say it is f of xy and it is g of xy. And where it is homogeneous means that power is same. You put y is equal to vx. dy will become equal to dv, first function divided plus second function into dv by dx. You put y is equal to vx, you convert it into this form, everything will be converted into v and x form. That will be very simple, right? So not going to repeat it. This we have also done in the class 12th also. After this, we solved linear differential equation with constant coefficients. In which we have to find the complementary function and the integrating factor. Then we started with the linear differential equation with constant coefficients. Linear differential equations with constant coefficients, in which we put d by dx is equal to d, if you remember. Clear? So for that, we first of all find the complementary function and the particular integral, and y becomes equal to CF plus PI. And how to find the CF, how to find this PI is important. So CF is very simple, students. So first of all, what do we do is that we make an auxiliary equation. Make an auxiliary equation. You will be getting some roots of the auxiliary equation. Let us say that the auxiliary equation is like this. You put d is equal to m. You will be getting something like this. M raised to the power n plus a, m raised to the power n minus 1 plus something is equal to 0. You will be getting some roots. Right? You will be getting some roots of m. Now, if the roots are real and distinct, if roots are real and distinct, then y will be equal to c1 e raised to power m1x plus c2 e raised to power m2x plus c3 e raised to power m3x and plus so on. That is how we calculate the complementary function if the roots are real and distinct. If the roots are equal, let us say that m1 is equal to m2 is equal to m3. Y will be equal to c1 plus c2x plus c3x square e raised to power mx is equal to, let us say, m is equal to m3 is equal to m, and plus बाकी सब ऐसे चलेंगे. c4 e raised to power m4x plus c5 e raised to power m5x and plus 1. So this is number one way of representing the complementary function. The second thing is, if the roots are imaginary and in pairs, let us say that m is equal to alpha plus minus iota beta. If the roots are imaginary, e raised to the power I alpha cos beta x plus sine beta x. Okay, so C1 and C2 also. Similarly, if the roots are irrational, let us say that C is equals to alpha plus minus root beta. It is irrational, right? So, complementary function will be equal to C1 e raised to power alpha plus root beta x plus C2 e raised to power alpha minus root beta x and plus so on, if we have more than two roots. Okay, and what is this pi? So pi is very simple, right? So pi is this on the left hand side there will be a function of d. On the left hand side there will be a function of d. It will be equal to some q value which is the right hand side. Pi will be equal to q divided by f of d. And always remember that d inverse, because d by dx is your d. If you apply the inverse function, d by dx inverse, that is d inverse, it will be integration. Remember this. It will be integration. Okay. So students, let us call it a day because it has been a lot of very long lecture now. Okay. In the next lecture, we will revise what we have discussed in the differential equation, the various types of differential equation, how to calculate this pi. We will be revising in the next class. In the next class, we will also be starting the numerical methods. Okay. The last one will be what? The last one is the probability and statistics, that will be finishing in the next lecture. In this differential equation, we also have the Laplace also. We will be discussing in the next class the Laplace also. Okay. So thank you everyone. Thanks for watching. Okay, bye bye. Take care.